Hello? My girlfriend looked at me and said, "You're low class compared to my ex." I didn't raise my voice. I simply replied, "You're right. At least I never cheated like he did." Then I walked away calmly, and by morning, our relationship was over. I'm Alex, 30M. My girlfriend, Brooke, 28F. We'd been together almost 2 years. Lived together for 8 months. This happened last Thursday night. We were sitting on the couch, scrolling separately, the TV on but muted because Brooke hates background noise unless she chose it. She'd been irritable all week. Snappy comments. Correcting how I pronounce things. Little jabs dressed up as jokes. It started over nothing. I made a comment about her friend's new boyfriend, something harmless about him seeming decent. She laughed, sharp and dismissive. You would think that. I asked what that meant. She sighed like I'd already disappointed her. It just means you don't really get how different worlds work. That was my cue to stop engaging, but I didn't. I asked what she meant by different worlds. She took a sip of wine, looked straight at me, and said it like she'd been holding it in for months. You're honestly kind of low class compared to my ex. No anger. No heat. Just a statement, like she was commenting on the weather. I waited for her to soften it. Laugh. Say she didn't mean it that way. She didn't. She kept going. About how her ex had presence. How people respected him when he walked into a room. How he knew the right restaurants, the right people, the right way to talk. She said she felt like she'd settled. That's when I felt it. Something quiet click into place. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't defend myself. I just said, calmly, "You're right." She blinked, clearly not expecting that. Then I added, "At least I never cheated on you like he did." The room went silent. Her face tightened. I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and headed for the door. She called after me, annoyed more than concerned. "Where are you going?" I turned back once. "Somewhere I'm not being compared." And I walked out, not knowing that by morning, everything between us would already be over. I drove for about 20 minutes without really knowing where I was going. No music, no phone calls, just the sound of the road and that sentence replaying itself in my head like it had been waiting for permission to surface. Low class. Not we're different. Not this isn't working. Low class. Like it was a permanent trait, not just an insult. I pulled into a gas station, parked, and just sat there. My hands weren't shaking. That surprised me. I felt clear. Clear in a way that only happens when something finally confirms what you've been quietly avoiding. Brooke had always had a way of comparing. Restaurants, vacations, people. She talked about her ex, Ryan, like he was a benchmark instead of a mistake. The cheating was always framed as a complication, never a deal breaker. Meanwhile, my biggest crime was not fitting into whatever image she wanted to project that week. My phone buzzed. "Brooke, you're being dramatic." No apology. No, that came out wrong. Just irritation that I hadn't stayed to absorb it. Another text came in before I could even lock my phone. "You know I didn't mean it like that." That line again. The universal translator for "I meant it. I just don't like the consequences." I drove to my friend Mark's place. He was the kind of guy who doesn't ask questions right away. Just handed me a beer, nodded at the couch, and let silence do its thing. After a while, I told him what she said. Exactly how she said it. He didn't react dramatically. He just frowned and said, "Man, you don't say that to someone you respect." That word landed harder than the insult. Respect. Around midnight, my phone lit up again. Missed calls now. Voicemails I didn't listen to. I knew the pattern. Tonight would be annoyance. Tomorrow would be panic. I slept on Mark's couch, staring at the ceiling, realizing something uncomfortable but honest. I hadn't walked out because I was angry. I walked out because something in me finally refused to shrink to make someone else feel superior. I woke up on Mark's couch to the smell of burnt coffee and the sound of his dog pacing the kitchen. For a few seconds, I forgot where I was. Then it came back, Brooke's voice, casual and cutting, like she'd been doing me a favor by finally saying it out loud. My phone was face down on the floor. When I picked it up, it buzzed immediately, like it had been waiting. 12 missed calls. A handful of texts sent hours apart, each one shifting tone. "Can you come back so we can talk like adults?" "You seriously left over one comment." "I was just being honest." That last one stuck with me. People love calling cruelty honesty when it lets them punch down without consequences. I didn't reply. I showered, borrowed a clean t-shirt from Mark, and went to work. Sitting at my desk felt surreal, like I was play-acting a normal day while something major quietly collapsed in the background. At 10:06 a.m., Brooke showed up. I know because my phone rang immediately after, her name flashing like it used to mean something urgent. I didn't answer. A minute later, she texted, I'm outside your building. No, please. No, can we talk? Just presence, asserted. I stayed where I was. 10 minutes later, another message came through. This is ridiculous, Alex. I said one thing you didn't like, and you ran away. That's when I realized she genuinely didn't understand why I'd left. In her mind, the comment was just another truth she was entitled to say. My reaction was the problem. Around noon, she sent a voice memo. I listened to it against my better judgment. She sounded tired, annoyed, slightly wounded. She talked about how relationships require thick skin, how I was insecure, how Ryan had never taken things so personally. That name again. Like she couldn't help herself. I deleted the memo halfway through. For the rest of the day, I did my job, nodded through meetings, and felt something solidifying inside me. Not anger, not sadness, finality. By the time I clocked out, I knew I wasn't going back to that apartment to apologize for being insulted, and I was pretty sure she still thought I would. I went back to the apartment that evening knowing she'd be there. Brooke's car was already in the lot when I pulled in. Same spot she always used, angled slightly crooked because she never corrected the wheel. That detail used to be endearing. Now it just felt like proof that nothing had changed on her end. When I opened the door, she was sitting at the kitchen counter scrolling on her phone like she owned the air in the room. She didn't look up right away. So, she said eventually, "You calm now." I set my keys down slowly. I wasn't upset. She scoffed. "Right. You stormed out because you were totally calm." I didn't engage. I grabbed a glass, poured water, leaned against the counter opposite her. She finally looked at me, eyes sharp, already prepared to win an argument I wasn't planning to have. "I was being honest," she said again. "You always say you want honesty." "There's a difference between honesty and contempt," I replied. That annoyed her. I could tell because she straightened up, like she'd been challenged. "God, you're so sensitive," she said. Ryan would have laughed it off. There it was. Again, like a reflex. "Ryan cheated on you," I said. Repeatedly. Her jaw tightened. At least he wasn't insecure about it. I nodded once. Not because I agreed, but because I was done collecting data. I walked past her into the bedroom and grabbed a duffel bag. "What are you doing?" she snapped, standing now. "I'm packing," I said. "For what?" Her voice rose. "You don't just leave because I told the truth." "I'm not leaving because of the truth," I said calmly. "I'm leaving because of how easy it was for you to say it." She laughed, but it was tight. "You're proving my point, you know." I zipped the bag and slung it over my shoulder. "No," I said. "I'm disproving it." She followed me to the door, still talking, still framing herself as the reasonable one. "You'll regret this," she said. "You always do." I paused with my hand on the handle. Looked back at her one last time. "Maybe," I said, "but not tomorrow." And I walked out, knowing something fundamental had already ended, even if she hadn't caught up yet. I slept in my car that night, not because I had nowhere else to go, but because I didn't want company, questions, or sympathy yet. I parked a few blocks away from the apartment, reclined the seat, and stared at the ceiling liner while the city hummed around me. Around 1 a.m., my phone started buzzing again. "Brooke." I let it ring. Then the text came. "You're really doing this? Over a comparison? You're acting like I stabbed you." At 1:37 a.m., the tone shifted. I didn't mean low class like that. You know what I meant. That sentence almost made me laugh out loud. Because if I knew what she meant, then she knew exactly how it sounded. I turned my phone off and slept in short, shallow stretches. By morning, the decision felt solid. Heavy but solid. I showered at the gym before work, changed into fresh clothes, and showed up like it was any other Friday. No one at the office knew my relationship had effectively ended. The world doesn't pause for personal revelations. At 9:12 a.m., Brooke emailed me. Not texted. Emailed. Like we were suddenly co-workers. She wrote that she was hurt and confused. That she felt I'd weaponized her past. That relationships involve honest comparisons, whether people like it or not. She said Ryan had higher standards, but also higher flaws, and she thought I understood that trade-off. Trade-off. Like partners or items on a shelf. She ended the email with, "I didn't think you'd actually walk away." That sentence stayed with me all day, because it wasn't about love, or conflict, or misunderstanding. It was about certainty. She was certain I'd absorb it, certain I'd come back, certain she could say whatever she wanted and I'd adjust myself around it. I replied with one line. "I walked away because I finally believed you." She didn't answer. By the time I left work that evening, I knew something she still didn't. The relationship wasn't ending. It already had. Saturday morning was the first time Brooke sounded scared. I'd left my phone on the kitchen counter at Mark's place while we made breakfast. When I picked it up, there were missed calls spaced exactly 10 minutes apart, like she was setting reminders for herself to panic. Then a voicemail. I shouldn't have listened. I did anyway. Her voice was softer than I'd heard it in a long time. Not apologetic, careful, like she was stepping through a room filled with glass. Alex, okay, I think this got out of hand. Can we reset? I don't want to fight. I just want to talk like normal people. Normal people. The phrase people use when they want to rewind without owning what they broke. I didn't call back. Around noon, she texted. I'm at the apartment. We need to figure out what this means. That sentence bothered me more than the insult had. Figure out what this means, like the relationship was still intact, just temporarily inconvenient. I drove over anyway, not to reconcile, to collect the rest of my things. She was sitting on the couch when I walked in, knees pulled up, wrapped in one of my hoodies. The moment she saw me, her face shifted, relief first, then irritation when she realized I wasn't smiling. You could have answered, she said. I didn't want to talk, I replied, heading toward the bedroom. She followed me. You're acting like I'm some villain. I'm acting like I'm done, I said. That made her snap. Oh please, she scoffed. You're not done. You're sulking. You always do this when you feel inferior. I stopped packing and turned to her. You keep saying that word like it's a fact. It is, she said. Ryan operated on a different level. You're comfortable. There it was again. The hierarchy. The ranking system. I zipped the bag. Then go find someone impressive. She crossed her arms. So that's it. 2 years, and you're just walking away? No, I said quietly. I walked away Thursday night. This is just logistics. She stared at me like she'd never heard that version of events before. By the time I left with the last bag, she was still standing in the doorway, convinced this was a phase. She still thought Sunday would fix everything. She was wrong. Sunday morning came with a kind of quiet that feels earned. No messages. No missed calls. No dramatic last words waiting on my phone. Just silence. And for the first time, it didn't feel like something was about to explode. That didn't last. Around noon, Brooke posted on Instagram. A mirror selfie. Oversized sunglasses. Coffee cup angled just right. Caption about knowing your worth and outgrowing situations that no longer serve you. Comments flooded in within minutes. Heart emojis. Queen energy. You deserve better. Ryan liked it almost immediately. That part stung, not because I missed her, but because it confirmed how fast she needed an audience. She didn't want resolution. She wanted validation. An hour later, my phone buzzed. I don't understand how you can just disappear like this. I stared at the message for a while before responding. I didn't disappear. I left. She replied instantly. Same thing. That sentence told me everything. To her, me having boundaries felt like abandonment. Me not accepting disrespect felt like betrayal. Me choosing myself felt like an attack. She followed it up with a longer text. How relationships take work. How no one is perfect. How she dated men with real flaws and learned to compromise. How she thought I was different because I was stable, comfortable, low class. I didn't reply. Later that afternoon, I ran into her friend Mia at the grocery store. She looked uncomfortable the moment she saw me. I heard what happened, she said cautiously. Brooke's really upset. I nodded. I believe that. She didn't think you'd actually leave, Mia added. I know, I said. That's the problem. Mia didn't argue. She just sighed, like something finally made sense to her too. That night, I unpacked my bags at Mark's place. Hung up shirts. Set my toothbrush on the sink. Small acts of permanence. As I lay in bed, I realized something quietly but clearly. Brooke wasn't shocked because I left. She was shocked because, for the first time, her words had consequences she couldn't talk her way out of. Monday morning, Brooke finally realized this wasn't a standoff anymore. She texted me before I was even fully awake. Can we please talk? Not argue. Just talk. I didn't respond right away. Not because I was playing games, but because I didn't feel rushed anymore. That urgency she was feeling? I'd already moved past it. An hour later, another message came in. I'm not saying I was perfect. I'm saying this doesn't have to end like this. That line stood out. Doesn't have to end like this. As if the ending was just a stylistic choice I was making to be difficult. I replied once. It already ended. She called immediately. I let it ring out. By lunchtime, she escalated. She emailed, then texted again, then tried calling from a different number. Each attempt felt less about me and more about her losing control of the narrative. That evening, I ran into someone I didn't expect, Ryan. He was at the same bar Mark and I stopped at after work. He recognized me instantly. Smiled like we were teammates instead of rivals in a story I never agreed to be part of. Hey man, he said. Didn't expect to see you. I nodded. Yeah. He shifted awkwardly. Brooke's been upset. She didn't mean it the way it came out. I looked at him for a second. This guy? The benchmark. The standard I'd supposedly failed to meet. You cheated on her, I said calmly. He blinked. That was a long time ago. And she still compares people to you, I replied. That's not something I'm interested in competing with. He didn't have a response for that. I left the bar early and went for a walk instead. Cool air. Quiet streets. Space to think without someone grading me. When I got back to Mark's place, there was one final text from Brooke waiting. I feel like you're punishing me. I stared at it, then typed my last reply. I'm not punishing you. I'm opting out. She didn't respond. And for the first time since Thursday night, I was certain of something. By morning, there would be nothing left to negotiate. Tuesday morning felt different. Not dramatic. Not heavy. Just settled. I woke up before my alarm and realized something small but telling. I wasn't replaying conversations anymore. No imaginary arguments. No mental drafts of what I should have said. That loop had finally shut off. On my way to work, I passed the coffee shop Brooke and I used to argue about. She said it was beneath her. I liked it because they remembered my name. I stopped in and ordered anyway. The barista smiled and asked how my weekend was. Quiet, I said, and meant it. Around 11 a.m., Brooke tried one last angle. She sent a long message, paragraphs this time. She admitted she'd been harsh. Said she grew up around men like Ryan and didn't realize how much she'd internalized that hierarchy. She said she was afraid of ending up with someone who didn't elevate her. That sentence could have been written at any point in our relationship. It just finally wasn't disguised. I replied once. Brief. Calm. I'm not interested in being someone's lesson. She didn't answer. Later that afternoon, Mark asked if I was okay. Not in a concerned way, just checking in. I am, I said. Actually. That surprised him. It surprised me too. That night, I went back to the apartment to grab the last few things I'd left behind. Brooke wasn't there. The place felt hollow, like a set after filming wrapped. Her things were still everywhere, but the energy was gone. On the kitchen counter sat a sticky note in her handwriting. We should talk when you're ready. I left it where it was. As I closed the door behind me, I realized the relationship hadn't ended because of one insult. It ended because she needed to feel superior more than she needed to feel connected. And I was finally okay walking away from that trait. By Wednesday morning, the relationship was officially over. Without a conversation, without a fight, without a dramatic final scene. Brooke didn't text, didn't call, didn't post anything cryptic. And that silence told me more than any apology could have. I heard later, from a mutual friend, that she'd been telling people she was shocked by how quickly things ended. That she thought we'd talk it out. That she never imagined one comment could undo 2 years. But it wasn't one comment. It was the ease with which she said it. The confidence that I'd stay. The assumption that I'd accept being ranked, compared, diminished, so long as she stayed. I went back to my normal routines. Work, gym, coffee shop she thought was beneath her. Life didn't explode. It expanded. And the strangest part? I didn't feel like I lost something. I felt like I stopped pretending. Stopped pretending that being comfortable was a flaw. Stopped pretending that loyalty needed to compete with image. Stopped pretending that love was supposed to feel like an audition. I never heard from her again. Not directly. The last thing I saw was another Instagram post a week later. A quote about outgrowing people who can't keep up. Ryan liked it again. I smiled, closed the app, and went about my day. Because when she called me low class, she accidentally gave me clarity. And when I walked out calmly instead of arguing, I took something she didn't expect to lose. Myself. Sometimes relationships don't end with shouting or betrayal. Sometimes they end the moment you realize you no longer need to prove your worth to someone determined not to see it. Bye-bye.